Welcome to Buckets. This is Action Network's WNBA betting podcast presented by BetMGM. And we're calling this episode Bonus Buckets because we got an all-star game coming up on Saturday. I'm Maria Marino along with Jim Turvey. Jim, thanks for coming on. As per usual, we got some betting markets trickling in here for All-Star Weekend. So I figured we got to do at least one more pod before the Olympic break. So how goes it?
Good. Yeah, I love these like single game. You really get to truly dive in on these markets. We don't have all of the markets that I think theoretically might be out, but we got plenty. I think we got some good looks here. So I'm excited to kind of talk about the game, the weekend as a whole. There's more to bet than in the past. So we'd love to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we knew the line the other day for the game itself. Dano and I touched on it here on the pod. I believe at that point it was Team USA favored by 6.5. They're now favored by 5.5 over the WNBA All-Stars. We have a total right now of about 193.5. Now, during the last podcast we did, Dano had also said that he wanted to bet the under. I noticed when the total came out, Jim, it was around 200. Now, as I said, closer to 193. How do you feel about this total?
Yeah, I'm right there with Dano. I think there's actually a fair amount of wiggle room on this. So you mentioned the format this year being WNBA All-Stars versus Team USA. The last time they did this was 2021, and it really brought out a much slower pace and a much lower scoring game. The final was 93-85, which is high scoring for a regular WNBA game, but it is somewhat similar to other sports where you'll see where defense isn't always the top priority, but it seemed like in this matchup that it was a little bit more of a priority. It wasn't just the full, just no defense, run and gun, chuck threes. We also have the addition potentially of the 4-point shot this year, which always draws interest, but then doesn't. Not all of them, many of them got made, so that's kind of an intriguing factor there, especially if one team's trying to make a comeback. So I like the under still, even though it's already taken a fair amount of action to that number, but I think this should be in the high 170s, low 180s range more than in the mid 190s right now.
Interesting. You got to feel like with the 4-point shot, I mean, Clark's got to pull one of them.
Oh, yeah,
right?
Of course.
One. I mean, that's kind of what the people want to see. But what we didn't have the other night when we did our last podcast was the MVP market for the All-Star game. We've got some props available, and we also know who will be competing in the 3-point contest, the skills challenge, and those other events in addition to the All-Star game. So was there anything else before we move on that you wanted to say about the game itself, the spread, anything like that?
Yeah, the spread I'm a little bit less confident. The WNBA All-Stars did defeat Team USA last time they played. So I think that's maybe why they took a little bit of money at first. It got all the way down to 4.5. It's now gone back up to 5.5. There's no real side of the spread here that I would be betting in particular. But I will say you mentioned the player props are out. I'm going to be looking around to see if we get unders on these props. If I love the under in this game by, a lot of points, right now all they have are overs available. So I'm probably not going to be betting into those. Maybe a rebounds prop. Maybe you could talk me into A'ja Wilson rebounds. She's really been, hitting the glass hard this season as a whole. And now we get a game where the last game was very tightly contested. If it's tightly contested and they're actually, really trying, that probably means Asia's going to be out there towards the end of the game. So maybe if we don't ever get the unders, the one player prop I might go for is A'ja Wilson rebounds.
So right now seeing 8+ rebounds for A'ja around -176. Stewie around +136. You can get 10+ boards. Angel Reese is actually favored to get that. 12+, you get into plus money for Angel Reese on rebounds. But yeah, it's different in that so far anyway, we're seeing a lot of plus on the points, plus on the rebounds, assists, things of that nature. No unders, as you were saying. All right, so
I will say just real quickly, I don't think Angel Reese rebounds is a look I'm going to be going for. It doesn't scream the type of game where they're going to be pounding it in the post and Angel's going to be getting lots of offense rebounds. That's not really the vibe of the All-Star game. In fact, if we do get unders, a couple of players, I'll kind of be across the board looking for unders, but I'll really be trying to target players who might not get that many minutes or who might not, have good matchups. And I do think actually both of the rookies are unders that I would probably go for. I think Caitlin, we've seen she's been playing out of her mind lately, but
Yeah.
she's doing against these really bad teams. And we talked about how she's improving against the best teams, but the scoring especially still isn't there against the best teams. And the ball isn't going to be in her hand, with the insane usage she has with the Fever. So I would probably look at unders, unfortunately, for the two rookies in this game if we get them.
You know what's so crazy? I was thinking about, could there be a scenario in this game where Caitlin Clark isn't guarded by folks as if their lives depended on it? Because really, every game so far, we're used to Caitlin just being guarded so tightly for 40 minutes. And I'm like, are they gonna just finally like let her get an open three off like once in a while? I don't
kind of feel like they're not.
I think the answer is no. I think there's still going to be like, especially for Team USA, I think there's still going to be a lot of pride there.
Yep.
I think they're going to be still locked in. I think there's going to be more eyeballs on this All-Star game maybe than ever. And this is the same rule applies in the sense that not only Caitlin, Angel too, I think these established veteran players still want to show who's boss and still want to show that like these rookies they have not arrived yet. Like we are still the bomb. So
I agree wholeheartedly.
It's just so hilarious because in almost any other All-Star game scenario, like Damian Lillard in the NBA All-Star game was pretty much able to just walk over half court and chuck threes constantly. Like, are we going to still see the full court face guarding? We shall see. All right. So we talked a little bit about props. Let's talk about All-Star game MVP. And I really like how you brought up the notion of like, for instance, with Angel Reese, you don't necessarily expect someone to be hanging out in the post and be fed the ball. And so I was thinking about this. I looked at the list of past All-Star game MVPs, and in recent memory, it's been the guards dominating, right? So we had Jewel Lloyd last year. We had Kelsey Plum the year before, Arike the year before that, which was the last time Team W defeated Team USA. Before that, Erica Wheeler in 2019. So you have to go back to 2018 before you even have a forward in the conversation, which was Maya Moore. She had back-to-back All-Star game MVP nods. And, you go back a little further, you get a couple centers in there. But I feel like the more I think about it, the typical like format of an All-Star game, just like how the guards always usually have the ball in their hands a lot more, here in this case, they just have a lot more liberty to kind of do what they want to do. Like the guards kind of control everything. And so I'm a little hesitant to, I would be hesitant to bet pretty much anyone. Like I'm not betting Asia Wilson here. I'm probably not Brianna Stewart. And by the way, Asia's the favorite at like plus 550 or so we're seeing, followed by Sab, Stewie. Kalia Copper is an intriguing choice, but I think it also kind of depends on who you think is going to win the game.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The two names that I highlighted are both on Team W, even though, like I said earlier, I'm not playing them on the money line per se. There was just when I looked at it, the two names that kind of popped out at me at numbers I thought were a little bit long. I know our friend Dano already made a couple of moves in the market, and I think that Copper one, I think, was a really long number at first, and is honestly, like you said, a player who probably should be even shorter, among those very favorites to them, the ball in their hands a lot. The two that jumped out to me, though, are Arike Ogunbowale, again, running it back from 2021. We talked a lot about, everyone talked a lot about Caitlin Clark not making Team USA, and it was a very big story. But by stature in the league, Arike was definitely the most famous and most established snub on this team. I think she had a little bit of a chip on her shoulder in 2021. I think she's going to have an even bigger chip on her shoulder this year. Now not only did she not make it, but she didn't even get all the snub talk because Caitlin got all the snub talk. So I think Arike is definitely going to be, and she's someone who can just absolutely fill it up. The less defense there is, so, theoretically, if we do get a high scoring game and maybe things do open up a little bit, I think that only lends to helping her out. But she can score against any defense. We saw it, if anyone watched that Fever game, that turnaround jumper that kind of put the nail in the coffin of that game, that's the type of shot that she has the ability to hit. So that was the first number that jumped out to me. And then the second number was Kayla McBride. We'll talk about her. She's in the 3-point contest as well. She is just she has been flaming hot all season, and she can shoot from three. And that sometimes it's these All-Star Game MVPs just come down to who hits the most threes. She is a definite candidate to hit the most threes, and she's at 31-1 right now. If she gets red hot from deep, I mean, that's kind of a wrap. She can hit 6, 7, those really, really easy. So those are the two names that popped out to me on the MVP market.
So a couple things. I thought I was going crazy. I was trying so hard to find who is starting the All-Star game. And I finally figured out, and by the way, you were trying to help me find this too, so I know I'm not crazy. But apparently the respective head coaches of Team W and Team USA will determine the starters. And as far as I know, they have not been public yet.
Yeah.
So I think that's really, really interesting, and I do wonder, will that become public at some point, Friday or whatever, Saturday morning, or who's starting, or is it going to be, we won't know until they announce the starting lineups. Yeah. So I think that's really interesting, because I think that would ultimately give you a little hint maybe in terms of both props and also the All-Star MVP market.
But I could also see it being something where, so say someone like a Brianna Stewart, she might get named a starter because of the respect factor, but she's still kind of nursing that injury. I could see her playing a very limited amount of minutes. So it could be a live bet situation too. I'm not sure if they'll keep this market up the whole game, but if you this is a prime time for the books to maybe be a little bit asleep at the wheel during the game, not realize that Stewie's not coming back in the game, even though maybe she has a really great first quarter and she's suddenly the favorite, but you realize, oh, she's not coming back in the game at all. There might be an edge out there. So definitely look to live bet it if they're offering it during the game.
Yeah, and you're right. There might be a little bit of a ceremonious factor where we give the vets the nod as the starters, but then they come out, they don't play much. I mean, the minutes overall, everybody, they want to get everybody minutes, right? They want to give everybody who's an all-star a chance to get in the game. So it's not going to be your typical starters playing the most minutes or anything like that. And on the note about Arike, it reminded me, did you hear that she actually said that she kind of took her name out of the running of Team USA because she felt, but there's still a disrespect factor. She felt like she wasn't going to be chosen, and she felt like she wasn't going to be, she wasn't a favorite of the committee or the style they wanted, or for whatever reason, she felt like she didn't fit whatever they wanted. And so she was like, you know what, I'm just going to take my name out of it. But still, I think the same logic applies as far as I'm not there because, for whatever reason, but I could be there. And also I can hang with any of you. And she's already shown it a few years back, asserting her dominance, much like she did when the Dallas Wings beat Indiana in the last game before the break, which was I should have seen that coming. All right, so that's MVP. You want to move on to 3-point challenge?
Let's do it.
All right, so we got some, I wouldn't say surprises, but I think some names that I don't know who I expected, honestly, to participate. I know there's certainly a reaction that we didn't get Sabrina, we didn't get Caitlin Clark. I personally am not surprised about Sabrina. I think that she had a performance last year that will probably never be replicated on the WNBA or NBA side. And she also had, definitely the best moment of the NBA All-Star weekend going against Steph. So she was probably like, I'm good. I've been there. I've done it. She's focused on a gold medal. And then, with Caitlin, don't know her reasoning, obviously, but I think maybe she was thinking, let me just take a breath here. I'm sure we'll see her in the contest at some point. But obviously, as you know, Jim, it's not like she's having a very efficient 3-point shooting season either. I mean, as discussed prior, she just doesn't, she's not your spot up shooter. Like, she is running point. She is getting all the attention, all of that going on. But we do have some very exciting names, including Stephanie Dolson, who's shooting like 50% from three. You mentioned K-Mac. Jonquel Jones is doing it again. She has already competed in the past, which is very cool because we got a couple of bigs between her and Dolson. We got Marina Mabrey. Who am I missing?
Alicia Gray.
So, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it is a very interesting field. This was another one, our friend Dana, will shout him out again, that came out where Kayla McBride, I believe, was at like plus 250. And that definitely was a number that needed to be attacked, and Dana attacked it. But now in the aftermath of that, I think McBride's a very deserving favorite right now. But I think it has shifted enough that I think I'm going to look towards the other end of the spectrum. I'm going to go for the longest shot whose odds are up right now, and that's Jonquel Jones. She's at plus 750 right now. And to me, she is, if you see that jump shot, it's one of the smoothest, easiest, I think that's what I was combining there, jumpers that you'll have. It's very low motion, very low effort. To me, Dolson, she's much more mobile than Dolson, which does play a role in this. And here's another factor. Alicia Gray and Marina Mabrey both are also competing in the skills competition. So they're going to be a little bit tired coming over to a three-point contest. I do think Kayla McBride is the best option. And honestly, I don't hate combining Kayla McBride and Jonquel Jones and kind of cutting out the other three. But I think Jonquel as the long shot is going to be my best bet for the three-point competition. She's shooting almost 40% from three this year, which isn't quite Dolson levels, but she definitely, if you see the jump shot, you know how smooth it is, you know how repeatable it is, and she's a little more mobile than Steph for this contest.
Okay, I'm just going to say, if she ends up winning this thing and you call her for winning the 3-point, just like you did Commissioner's Cup MVP a year ago, I mean, look, you're already legend status here on the podcast, but that would be like, you'd be like God.
We'll have to like get her on somehow, and like she and I can like cheers a champagne glass or something if she'll have won me 2 straight long shots.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point about Mabrey and Alicia Gray in the skills challenge as well. And just so everybody knows, so another thing that came up in the whole conversation, sort of reacting to some people like Caitlin or Sab not doing this, was, I guess, in the past, players haven't gotten paid a lot to participate in these things. Like, I think I saw around $1,000 to participate, $2,500 for the winner, whatever. So I'm just saying, like, if you're on the fence and you're like, a bigger incentive would make you be like, okay, I'll do it, right? But then I saw Nneka Ogwumike, who's the president of the WNBPA. That is so hard to say. I should have just said the Players Association president. She announced that Aflac is becoming like a sponsor of this, right? And there's going to be a bonus for the winners of the skills challenge and the 3-point contest, $55K. So, I mean, anyway, if you're wondering, it's they're going to be motivated. Obviously, there's a pride thing, but like that's a sweet little payday if you actually end up winning these. Yeah, all right. So riding with JJ.
Yeah, it's got it.
I don't know who to go with here, to be honest. Like I said, I would probably avoid Mabrey and Gray just because of what you said, but yeah, and I like the K-Mac thing too, just in terms of the mobility. And you know, we heard last year before Sabrina had her performance that like she actually practiced the whole format. I don't know if these players have had a lot of chance to practice. I don't know how soon they committed to doing this, but if any little news nuggets like that trickle out, I think, you know, pay attention.
Definitely.
All right. Skills challenge. You have thoughts on that too?
I have less thoughts here. This is a very narrow field. They are all basically between plus 300 and plus 400. Brittany Griner being in this as a whole is just kind of funny to me because, like, I don't know what the deal is here. If someone knows, send it along to me. This is the second time she's agreed to be in this for a player who, listen, Brittany Griner's a great player, but she's not like jumping off the page as like the ultimate effort player when I'm watching the game. She's a little bit like, I'm good. I'm going to like do my thing. I'm going to score 20. I'm going to, you know, but like for her to be in the skills contest is just so strange. It's also not usually one where you see a lot of bigs playing.
So, I think I think that's the thing. You don't really think of bigs in the skill challenge,
Yeah.
and she's the only one because it's Gray, it's Sophie Cunningham, Mabry, and Erica Wheeler. So, and like obviously all of those players are, they're faster, they're probably more mobile.
Yeah.
But I would say this about BG: she does have a finesse game. She is very skilled. So
Skilled.
maybe it's just a plea of like, hey, bigs are skilled too.
Yeah,
Bigs
I can
aren't
see it.
just like these big trees hanging out down there. Like we got some skills too.
If she does it, I'm gonna tip the cap because I don't think I'm gonna be betting on her. I'll say right now, Erica Wheeler is the favorite, and she's both very quick and has a good history at All Star Weekend. But I kind of lean towards Alicia Gray. She kind of combines all the factors that you need in the skills contest. She's one of those whose all around game is very strong. This is of all the ones, this is the one I probably have the least thoughts on, to be honest. But I would lean Gray, and I just probably wouldn't bet Griner. Is my two pieces of advice for the skills contest.
Hey, we'll take it. All right. Any other closing thoughts for All-Star Game weekend?
No, I think it should be really fun. I'm really curious to see if we do get a tight, close game, just how competitive it can get. And, I would love to see a really, I think we all remember the All-Star games that are close and fun and people actually trying. We all love to see that. I understand the players don't want to get hurt or anything, especially before the Olympics, but some of them are on a break for a month, put a little effort in and make it a fun game.
Well, and I said this the other day with Dano too. Like, I do think that gives Team W a little bit of an edge too, where they can play loose. They're not worried about going anywhere to continue playing. They're like, hey, I can play this game, show out, and go home on my couch and rest and relax and chill. Whereas, the Team USA players, they might be a little tighter just because it's like, yeah, we really care more about going to Paris and winning gold and being in our tip-top shape and all of that. So I think that's what makes it definitely a very unique format. But I'm sure it's going to be amazing, man. I said it the other night, Angel and Caitlin on the same team. Like
that should be really fun to watch.
I know. It's going to be very cool. There's no shortage of storylines, that's for sure. All right. Somehow we managed to talk over 20 minutes about this. But Jim Turvey, thanks as always for coming on. You are our all-star MVP here on Buckets WNBA. So we always appreciate the insight. Once again, I'm Maria Marino. We're going to have an Olympic preview coming out Tuesday. And then we'll probably be checking in with some Olympic stuff after that. So if you're not already, make sure you follow the pod so you don't miss a beat. But once again, we are presented by BetMGM. Follow us on the Action app so you can track your picks, see what we're picking as well in case there's something that we didn't discuss here on the pod. But enjoy All-Star, everybody. We'll see you soon. Oh, and let's get buckets.